Welcome to Travel Crafter channel. My name is Renette. Today's tutorial is on knitting this very easy chunky turban. I'm making use of a number 5 bulky scarfy yarn from a Lion brand. Name is Forest Black. It's number 5 bulky yarn from Lion brand. My knitting needle is 5.75 millimeter. You would need a pair of scissors, your tapestry needle, and a counter. This is a very easy knitting project. If you are a beginner, you are in the right spot. We will be doing knitting stitch or the knit stitch all throughout this project. And you will be an expert after you do this project. So let's begin. Slip stitch, the slip knot to begin with, and then we will do a cast on of 48 stitches, and I am using the long tail cast on method. If you do not have any idea on how to go about this, I have a tutorial that I taught how to do the long cast on method in a slower pace. So go ahead and do your 48 stitches, and we will meet up in a few. So I came to the end of stitching the 48 stitches. Make sure your yarn is straight along your circular needle. And then we can start on doing the first round or the first row. I will not be joining this the yarn together, so I will just be doing rows after rows of knitting stitches. So on my first stitch, I will use the cast on tail and the working tail for that very first stitch. So put your needle behind and we will knit this yarn. It's kind of hard, especially when you initially start doing your project. So we will be knitting 48 stitches back and forth. We will not be joining the yarns on rounds or the project on rounds. I will just keep knitting from one stitch to the last stitch. So every row will be 48 stitches, and I will be doing a length of 19 inches. So I will show you later how many rows it will take me to reach the 19 inches long of my project. So just go ahead, knit all the stitches in every row. There is no other thing to do here but just to knit each and every stitch in your row and try to build up your length or the height for your turban. So this will be a very fast and quick project, and it's an easy one. So it's definitely for total beginners. Okay, so I came to this many rows as I went along. I just fast forwarded the video this much because there's nothing really to it but all the knitting stitches. So we just keep going and going rows after rows until you reach 19 inches in length. So I am still knitting here. I still haven't gone through finishing up reaching the 19 inches long. So I am trying to show you here in the mid part of my project. I did a little bit of alteration. Instead of knitting all the way, midway or halfway, I did some purling and some half fisherman's rib stitches. I will show you that at the last part of this tutorial. But in the meantime also, I just want to show you that this yarn is kind of fibrous and it's variegated. So on some length or on some portions, the yarn will somewhat be thick, and then as you work along, there are some parts again that the yarns get thinner, but the bottom line, it's really fibrous. So if you're a beginner, just be considerate of that quality of this yarn. But in the meantime, it's really soft to work on with. So I'm trying to measure right here how much length my turban is coming out now. So remember my length, and I think it's like an appropriate length in general. It's 19 inches long, and I did a total of 129 rows. So this is my end row, and then I will be casting off or binding off from this point on. So we are ready to bind off our project. So need to you always have to have 2 stitches on your right working needle. So knit both of them, and then take the first stitch and put it over the second stitch. So again, it's a pattern. Just do 2 stitches to put on your working yarn or the right needle, and then the first stitch goes over the second stitch. So this will be all the way to the end of the row. Just keep doing it. Take your time. Takes a while to finish it up. It's kind of tricky, and especially if you use this kind of aluminum knitting needle. It glides the yarns, and sometimes it's just tricky, especially if you are a beginner. And as usual, you can see that I'm dealing with the fibers, more fibers coming out of this yarn. So right here, we're coming close to the end of our bind off. That's the last stitch that I am working on. So from now on, you can snip off your yarn. Leave at least, I left like about 18 inches for me. I will use this to seam off also the edges. So here, you can take your knitting needle off and then just tie a knot and then pull out your yarns and tighten the end stitch, and you are done with your project. So again, my project came up to 19 inches in length. So we are ready to seam our edges together using your tapestry needle. So here I'm still undecided on how to end my project. I'm trying to make it to meet halfway, but it didn't work that way. So this here, folding it lengthwise is what worked for me. So here is where I will start to seam my edges together. So just take your time too. It takes a while since it's kind of a long project. So seam your edges together. Just make sure that you pick each and every stitch so you will not have a hole in your on the sides or on the edges. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Just neatly seam your edges and then you turn your work inside out. here how I'm showing you. It's like a roll, a log roll. Just try to straighten your where you seam the edges together. Just try to straighten it so it will not create bulk on your project. Okay, and then now, like how I am doing, fold your fabric like this. Fold it as well on the other end, and then you will sandwich that together so one goes inside the other. Okay, so you now have around 1 to 8 edges that you will now seam together, and that will be created the knot that you see that we put in the middle of the turban. So seam the eight edges together, and remember to catch each and every stitch also as you go along, so you will not create any hole. Take your time. It's kind of hard to catch the edges. Make use of a big or a large tapestry needle, so you will be able to better get through the edges of this bulky yarn that we use. And regarding the color, I'm sorry that it's not so clear. It's kind of dark. The forest black, I think, is dark, but it's more of a dark green color, and the black that was caught in the middle of my project. So that is all that there is to this. After this, I'm gonna explain to you how I did the stitches in the mid portion or halfway into my my turban. So for the meantime, just keep seaming each and every edge of this middle part. This creates the knot that we put in the middle of our head. So now you're almost done. You turn it upside down or inside out again and try to fix the knot that you create. That is how you create it, and that is the middle portion of my turban. So I'm finishing it up before I cut before I snip off the extra yarns that's left. Make sure that it's secured, tie it like once or twice. Just making sure that this will not come off. And this is my final cut of my turban. So again, the size is 9 inches in width, and 9 inches length and 5 inches in width. So let me show you how to do this middle portion of my turban. Okay, I did like 2 rows. Okay, so we're ready for the second row. So let's do purl 1.
So here I already
and
cast
then
it
knit
on,
stitch the
and
next, but
row
you will
one
go
is like
under
just the
the
knitting,
stitch right
the knit
below
row stitches.
the V shape.
So
So
I am doing
again,
the knit stitches
use
here all
knit
throughout.
stitch, but not the usual knit stitch, but you go on the stitch below your knit stitch. Again, purl the first stitch, and then the second stitch you knit, but not as regular as we do. You have to knit below the stitch from the previous round. That is how to say it. So purl and then knit, not regularly, but do it on the stitch from the previous round. So this is the final product of my project. It's very easy and it's beginners friendly. I hope you all understood how I explained the techniques in doing this. I thank you so much for coming into my channel. Thank you for watching. God bless you all.